me. I couldn't believe it, even when out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. Been double dared by the devil, and I'm still in the field. Now you get to watch me get it up out of the mud. I couldn't believe it, even when I was out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. I've been double dared by the devil, and I'm still undefeated. Now y'all get to watch me get it up out of the mud. Now y'all get to see me without a mud. Everything that I do gon' be out of love. And I'm tired of these trials and these tribulations. And I'm sick of my name while we getting drugged. But no, I ain't budge. All of this money and you not pursuing it. All of this time you don't know what to do with it. Counterproductive and counterintuitive. Why you be acting like you already new to it? Straight from the gutter, boy, we getting sewer. As soon as we get it, you know we gon' move it. With all of this money I made from the block, get out the game and invest it in stock. Bought me a whip, get the rest of it up. When you saving no stuff, and it messes them up. When we'll be fine, but we stay on our grind. All of my niggas is stepping it up, and they foot on our neck and no letting it up. We level the plan, but even the battle. My son is a scientist, he's splitting at us. Need us more geniuses, I know we got them. I know it's in us, I'm bringing it out. I know ain't perfect, I'm making them model on Capitol Hill, and I'm bringing them hollows. The path that I'm on should nobody follow. I couldn't believe it, even when out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. The devil there by the devil, and I'm still in the field. Now you get to watch me get it up out of the mud. I couldn't believe it, even when I was out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. I've been double dared by the devil, and I'm still undefeated. Now y'all get to watch me get it up out of the mud. We fought hard in this road this longer. Fighting each other won't make us no stronger. Honey, this nigga's been fighting this hunger. I'm at my worst and ain't getting no wronger. No change of signs, I'm making it through. I flip a chair or a table or two. They won't believe what I'm able to do. I'm making these moves, but this is a new movement. My dog at the gate and I'm racing the niggas. I'm getting too lit and my vocab with duties. On my way up and I break through your roof and shot for the moon and it made me a star. Got so much drive I can make it to Mars. Can't promise the day that I make it tomorrow. Every time that we make it to pay what we borrow. It's to pay what we borrow.
Peace, peace, peace. Gonna get into a quick build. I got a couple things to do, but there's one I want to do this evening, the one I've been postponing like forever. I've lost a few of my documents because my computer shut down and closed so many windows. This is why I have so many issues. Sometimes when I'm doing live, I try to keep up the information so that I don't have to research it because there's a lot of stuff I have to go through to find certain documents I'm looking for. But what I decided to do today was start this off. I'm going to read a little bit and then I'm going to drop the documents for you guys to, verify some of this information yourself after we read a bit of it. This is on the Bureau of American Anthology. This is the information on the linguistic notes. I'm going to read through this a little bit. I'll probably forward past to another page to kind of, read some more of that information, right? The Cherokee language. Algonquin, Eric Quankin stop. I think it's not saying Iroquoian. I'm not really sure. This is pronounced so much different from the different pronunciations of things when I hear the Aliquin and different things. So I'm assuming this is of the same stock, a different pronunciation, maybe having to do with the linguistics. I'm not really sure, but we'll figure it out later. It says this stock has often been studied, but through various vicissitudes, only very few of the results have been published. But 2 attempts to publish a grammar of it have been made, one by J. Pickering, another by von der Gabelentz. These words are kind of faded out, guys, so it might be a little weird reading here. Pickering's attempt was not only better than could be expected at a time when so little in American Indian linguistics was known. Von der Gabelentz sketch, though hold on a second. All right, guys. Sorry about that. Had to grab my door. A couple things going on. All right, let's get back to it. So it says that there are still two Cherokee dialects that are extinct. The Western, often called the Upper dialect, which is spoken by the majority of the Cherokee of Oklahoma and by a few families in Graham County, North Carolina, and the Central, often called Middle dialect, which is spoken by the Cherokees on the Qualla Reservation. Where these investigations were made, there is historic evidence of a third dialect, which may be called the Eastern. It has sometimes been referred to as the Lower dialect. The last Indian, as far as we know, who spoke the dialect died in the beginning of this century. There's a possibility that one or two more dialects existed in the past, but there's a very scant inadequate evidence of this. The differences existing between the two dialects that are still spoken are small indeed, nor does the extinct dialect seem to have diverged much from the two others. Allowing for such phonetic shifts as West dial, T, TL, center, D, dot TS, W, dot T, all these different graphics, guys. I'm not going to go through all this because I'm not even familiar with them. But the vocabulary is practically the same in the morphology. There do not seem to be other differences than can be explained by these phonetic shifts. The syntaxes cannot yet be compared, as our knowledge of the Eastern dialect is so scanty, nor has the Western dialect been adequately studied. The formulas, as studied in the AY manuscript and in the majority of the other manuscripts that have since been collected, are mostly critical in the Central dialect. Still, a lot of the Western dialect forms are to be found in them, and there are also a great many archaic, ritualistic expressions, the meaning of which is rapidly disappearing. So, expression being rapidly disappearing in these particular meanings. So, just by changing the words, you know how we talk about the spells, and you know how we say there's spell binding with this indoctrination. A lot of religious and aspects and everything that are the same thing, pretty much, is all behind the changing of words, the meaning of words, taking the linguistics to a different level with the dialect, putting off a different frequency, which also would affect the atmosphere, that would affect the person's body, their thinking, their inner being, so on and so forth. We'll go past that. I have given in the interlinear analysis translation as corrupt and conveying the Cherokee meaning as faithfully as was found possible. Rather than speculate on probabilities or advance conjectures that can not be disproved, I have indicated by a query mark those elements that cannot be satisfactorily analyzed. In query mark, hold on a second. If query marks are met with more often than either the reader or the editor likes, it should be borne in mind that the language in which the formulas are couched is a ritualistic idiom. Idiom. I've heard this word, but I'm not familiar, guys, so we're going to verify what that means. Let's see. Ritualistic. What is the name? What is a ritualistic idiom?
Here's the definition of ritualistic: relating to or characteristic of rituals followed as part of a religious or solemn.
Okay, what is an idiom? What is an idiom? Okay. What is an idiom?
Here's the definition of idiom: a group of words established by usage as having a meaning not deducible from those of the individual words, e.g., rain, cats, and dogs, see the light.
Mm. Okay. Often very different from the ordinary language. Both are as regards vocabulary and grammar, and abounding in expressions which even the initiated do not always understand. So, therefore, like I said, spellbinding. There's certain things that that are referred to because of the the pattern of words and letters. Each letter actually is an expression of something. So when you're combining these things together, you don't really know what you're expressing if you don't know the validity of that particular sequence. Because the words or the letters, when forming something, is actually a sequence. Peace, brother. Sounds like the in it edict. The in edict. What is the in edict, brother? I'm sorry, not familiar. Sounds like the in edict. Let's see. What is the in edict?
According to Wikipedia,
No, it says in edit. The Nirvana editor is a text editor and source code editor for the X Windows system. Okay, that's not what you're talking about. So, okay, brother, I'm not sure, so I have to come back. Peace says peace. Edict. An edict. Edict. What is an edict? What is an edict? An official order or proclamation issued by a person in authority. So that could even be a person that is operating under their trust. Is what that sounds like to me. Mm-hmm. Let's see. All right. As for the analysis, I have always given in interlinear translation the original meaning as far as it could be ascertained given the sama, samasiological evolution in footnotes to the to the free translation. Thus, Gadni will be rendered by arrow in the interlinear translation as this was in its original meaning. In the free translation, it will be rendered by bullet, which is its meaning in the context. A footnote explains the evolution in meaning arrow, bullet, lead. The same applies to such words as DELO that has gone through the following evolution in meaning seed, bead, money, dollar, or to KALOGWEKTI, locust tree. Totally different. Bow, because locust wood was used to make bow, a bow, not bow, I'm sorry, bow, a bow, because locust wood was used to make bows. So locust wood would have been Kolo Twe, which is locust tree, in reference to a bow because it's used to make bows. So gun, the modern successor of the bow. It is hoped that that a paper of Cherokee linguistics on which the present writer is working will soon be ready for publication. Phonetic symbols and abbreviations. The following list will serve the double purpose of explaining the phonetic symbols and the abbreviations used in the text and of presenting a summary description of the Cherokee phonetic system as I heard it. Here's the phonetics: the vowels in oral, long or short, and open. A as in English, far, GM band. O as in English, not, GM, got, V as in English, spoon, U. So, oh, that's a U, not a V. U, ooh. E as in English, air, like air, French scene. And I as in English, seat, closed. A as in GM, no, GM, wall. U as in English, nook, two O, double O is U. E as in English, baby stain. This is sound is very rarely heard in Cherokee and then always finally where it occurs at all, it seems to be a contradiction of nasalized long plus I. So yeah. O only occurs in songs. I as in English, pen, pen, short, as O, the O with the two dots, as in English bird, but often short GM and go instead of O, it's otter. U, the sound between A and 5, U, the sound between A and 5. The E, vowel of indefinite quality of an English father. Saying it just like it's saying, as it's shown. Leave. Where at the end of leave, it's a sound. Parasitical phonemes that are scarcely audible and occur frequently as weakly articulated vowels are indicated by small superior characters like OU and the E and the I, like I was just saying, the U and the W, the I and the Y, etc., etc. The ones that have the same or similar sounds, depending on the shortness of how you're pronouncing it, that word would come out a certain way. So let's see. Okay, it says voiceless vowels, as they are paradoxically called, are phenoms produced by lips and tongues taking the position to pronounce a vowel, A, I, U, or O, as the C's may be, as the E's may be. There may be, and there usually is, a strong emission of breath, but as the vocal cords are not brought in action, the phoneme is voiceless, nasalized, but more commonly with less pronounced nasalization, thus the AN and the AAN, the A and the I. O usually long, the E is usually long, the O is usually long, and the O in going into the separate pronunciation of a short is also nasalized. O, and When only a slight degree of nasalization is heard, this is a short by writing a small N after the vowel instead of writing a hook under it, as it's done in cases where nasalization is more pronounced. Semi-consonants. The Y, the W may be strongly aspirated when they are written. The Y and the W may also be voiceless when they are rendered. Y and W, the W is often preceded by a barely audible U sound, W, because it is to use, W's, to use. In this case, the phoneme is written W. There will be a U, a small U, and then the U consonant stops. Dental, D, voiced as in English dawn, the intermediate sound between voiced and unvoiced dental, T unvoiced in the English hit, T unvoiced and aspired as in English ten, even though it's I and A, it's N. N sounds like E, and it sounds like E, but with aspirations more empathetic. Okay, I'm not going to go into this whole thing, guys. Let me see. I want to read something else. Let me skip down here. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, we'll start with disease, its nature, and disease, its nature and its causes, the nature of diseases. Many of the facts contained in this paper are bound to remain unintelligible in no sound understanding and gained into the Cherokee conceptions of disease. These are not by any means so simple or uniform as many theorists are want to ascribe to people at that stage of culture. Disease in general is commonly referred to by the word the ya ye, which is no doubt related with the stem. It looks like the a division mark in the U, the YUG, which is resentment. Goya, GA. I have resentment toward thee. In the ritualistic language of the formulas, however, the expression never occurs. Use G, do, always being used in its stead. The original meaning of this word has now been lost, even by the medicine men, who always claim It merely means the disease present in the body. The Mooney accordingly invariably translate it as the intruder. Disease is an intruder, something that has intruded on the body, obviously, from its natural state. Although this way of translation, it conveys its general meaning. There it is cause to discuss and somewhat further. It appears from various expressions that can be compared with the one under discussion that the meaning would be that which is important, although this concept is usually rendered gallo, quatayo, in the original language. Yet such expressions as the following are still in constant use. Usage, vlosh do sitio d is the best way I can pronounce it. I came on important business. Or Goda Yijas du Kwa Lu Ji. What on earth didst thou come in here for? Imply, I must be very important, else thou wouldn't not have come. Go wolf do. Of but tribal worth, not important. These expressions clearly prove that the true meaning of the term is it would uh, it would thus appear that it is one of the many euphemistic terms which the Cherokee, as so many other tribes and people use, and the object of which is to allude to a dreaded concept by respectful circumlocution so as not to offend it, or so as not to bring about its appearance, its materialization, not to bring about its materialization. He might say by calling it by its common name. Now, we talk about this all the time. What they're talking about the manifestation of it. So, calling it by a specific name would be bringing it to life, putting life into that. This is why I always talk about the importance of words and the spellbinding, because words actually create what? A frequency. We talked about this. These frequencies actually can affect your body, using the frequency to actually make metabolic changes in the body. So you would think that from changing to the original languages of the land and using the language, the changing certain barriers of the language with these vowels and manipulations and things, this would also change the construct of the land in itself, the environment in itself, and the people, right? Okay. The viols G do is the disease and it is present in the body of the sufferer. Although it is invisible, intangible sounds like something spiritual, like a spiritual attack, right? When you have the disease, that is what? It is a binding spiritual attack, because what? Most of the time there's some type of parasitic nature behind that. When you're getting some type of infection, you're getting some type of bacteria into your system. You're getting something that can poison your system. These things are parasitic in nature, which parasites are actually considered of a spiritual, demonic nature, per se, as a person would say. So you have something that invades your body. So it would be a possession, right? It's a possession of a certain parasite that causes a dis-ease. It's a dis-ease of the body, right? Let me check my chat. Peace, Atom, Anahara, Jean, Marte, peace, sis. Thanks for joining. Oh, Lord, not depressing news. Oh, yes, let's try and get that switched up, darling. Get some information going. We don't want to hear anything depressing. It does not, as a rule, torment a person of its own free will. It is inert of itself, but is subdued to the will of more powerful agents and spirits. What did I just say? More powerful agents and spirits, ghosts, or even human beings, who may cause it to enter the body of those persons whom they wish to harm. What are we talking about here? We're talking about witchcraft, we're talking about alchemy, we're talking about sorcery, we're talking about indoctrination and different things that'll happen with the person's body, and that can affect them physically as well, correct? Okay. The idioms of the formulas seem to imply that the 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 J do is not so much put into the victim as under him. The expression duni ya tundi, he, the disease causer, has put it, the disease, under him, it appears, always being used. How the disease then finally entered the victim under whom it has been put is not clear. There is a consensus of opinion among the medicine men that it enters the body somehow, but on the question as to whether this introduction takes place by way of a natural orifice or whether it is possible by a disease to enter the body anywhere, not one of the medicine men eared to comment himself. Okay, not understanding the sorcery and the witchcraft of certain things, I believe this is possibly why they were contorting their thinking as to how did the, this happen. Is it just some type of witchcraft, something that was put on them, or, is it something? How did it enter? These are the things they would question. They didn't really have an answer for. There are different ways these things happen. Just a minute, guys. This is sorry, guys. I told you I got a lot going on. This is very important. Hold on one second. This is another important call. This is why I have not been getting back with these lives, guys. But give me a second. I'm going to try and get this one completed. One moment. Perfect. Perfect. Sounds great. And your name again? I'm sorry. Okay, great. Perfect. I look forward to seeing you next week. You too, dear. All right. Bye bye. All right, guys. Sorry about that, y'all. I got so much going on, like I told you. All right, so let's get back to it. From the fact that the Vosge do is present in the person's body is by no means follows that an illness is the instantaneous result. The disease may be present in a dormant, latent condition. Now, when we're thinking about this in a dormant, latent condition, you know how we talk about our cells a lot. I tell you guys how you are a product of your ancestors. Obviously, everything that is in you has come from the prior ancestors before. You and I have been formulated. So you actually have mother cells. You also have binary cells and binary coding, which are cells from prior ancestors that lie dormant within you. So, depending on something that may be going on, depending on when you're conceived and the mixture of certain chemicals or cells from another person that you made it with, that could induce a dormant disease to come out in your system. So this is how diseases are actually formed as well. And often months or even years after the revengeful animal host or ghost has inoculated the person, they say a ghost, it's actually those binary cells, the mother cells, the coding that comes from the ancestors that lie dormant and can be enhanced by certain things, even certain foods, allergies, a change in your environment, so on and so forth. The malady may become virulent. It is easy to see how powerful it means this conception, it's a conception, right, must be toward consolidating the prestige of the medicine man, enabling him as it does to explain many diseases for which there is no evident cause by events and dreams of many months or years ago, and to explain how it is that certain acts and infractions of taboos that, according to the general belief, ought to be followed by the contraction of a disease, apparently remain without any immediate results. The presence of a USG, though, however, does not account for, I'm sorry, just a second, account for all the cases of sickness. There are, for example, the ailments due to our saliva being spoiled, The Cherokees believe that the saliva is located in the throat and that it is of capital importance in human physiology. As a matter of fact, the physiologic role they ascribe to the saliva would lead us to believe that they consider it as important as the blood and the gall. When the saliva is spoiled, the patient becomes despondent, withers away, and dies. When the saliva is spoiled, the patient becomes despondent, withered away, and dies. Now, if you can think about when you're sick, right, there's a bunch of mucus that is gathered up into your system. You start to try to cough it up, you try to get it out, it's in your throat. There's all these type of problems. So when you're having these things going on, right, the saliva is spoiled. So we would see where they would come up with this concept. And the mucus overcoming the body, depending on the greatness of it, the strength of the infection that is in that mucus, that could cause a person to die. The strength of that infection, the powerfulness of it, actually depleting or diminishing cells in the body, depleting red blood cells that actually help the body to thrive with its immunity, so on and so forth. So these are the things that are going on. The most frequent causes of this state of affairs are dreams, especially the dreams caused by the ghost people. You'll have to see page 26 for that. But also those caused by snakes and fish. Snakes and fish can cause bad dreams, is what they believe. The belief is based, no doubt, on the feeling of oppression and anguish that accompanies many dreams, especially those of the nightmare variety, causing nightmares. A state of ill health very much akin to the one just mentioned, and where to the lost doe is believed to be present, is caused by an enemy of ours feeling Yuda Neto, which is of a different mind, being of a different mind. So that spirit is of a different mind. Don't we talk about this all the time? So they indeed have said the same thing, come to the same conclusion. That it is the mind. The mind is all pertaining. This is why we're talking about manifesting or speaking words, speaking life into words or speaking depth with your words, because these things can be manifested. And these are all in a certain spirit as well, toward us different. Here, again, being a euphemistic term for bad or worse. This is usually ascribed to the activities of a human enemy and refers to a psychopathological state rather than to any other disorders. The victim is utterly despondent and dejected and seems to be the victim of a severe case of chronic melancholy. Another explanation that is offered in some cases, and the one which is more apt to cause surprise, as it is not common to the Indians of the eastern United States, is that the illness is caused by the action of a human being who has ravished the soul of the patient. Did you hear that? Let's read that again. Indians of the eastern United States is that the illness is caused by the action of a human being who has ravished the soul of the patient. The fact that one's soul has been buried does not result in instant death. One may live without it for 6 or 8 months or even for a year. But if the party working on behalf of the victim is not successful in ultimately removing the band, death is inevitable. The symptoms described to an illness of this order do not differ materially from those belonging to having one saliva spool, or to the illness caused by some having his mind different toward us. This makes it the easier for a medicine man who does not succeed in curing a patient to make a new diagnosis and to change his treatment from one, the object of which was to dislodge the spoiled saliva, to the new one aiming at removing the band from the buried soil of the patient. The way in which the medicine man finds out what is actually the cause of a given disease will be discussed under the caption of diagnosis on page 39. Sometimes, however, diagnosis, however accurate, will fail to disclose the actual cause of the ailment. A favorite explanation in such a case is to ascribe the evil to the fact that the patient has dreamed of different things. It is implicitly understood understood that this means different or all sorts of bad things. Since in this case the causes are complex, it is considered that the treatment must be the same, and a medicine is prescribed consisting of a decoction of as many as 24 different plants. Many ever becomes ill without a cause, and with very few exceptions, every individual is responsible and blamable for the disease he contracts. It's up to a person what they're intaking in their body, if you're keeping your immune system up, if you're eating properly. We talk about this all the time. If you're not eating properly, you're not taking the right things in your body to keep your immune system up, so on and so forth, you're going to have disease. You're going to invite these things in your body because you don't have the things in it to fight it off. The proper electrolysis that actually edifies the body's cells in the system and keeps it strong to fight off these things, these bacteria, these different parasites that may invade the body. A distinction is made between dangerous and less serious disease, but even the latter have to be adequately cured for and attended to for the disease centers and the causers, whether human or non-human, have a predilection for sending disease to a person when he is already in a weakened condition. They know that they stand a far better chance to be successful and attain their goals. Okay, I'm going to switch up here, guys, and go get to something else real quick. I'm going to read a little bit about the treaty curses in the Old Testament, right? The first millennium treaties, which contain the most elaborate curses, are mentioned once or twice in his work, but are otherwise um, almost completely disregarded. Quite a number of lengthy studies of the Israelite concept of the curse and its religious and social significance have been made, but these have not taken up the question of a literary relation between foreign curses and the Bible. Scholars have suggested a connection between the curse and the doom oracle as literary. I gotta take this, guys. I'm so sorry. Hold on one moment, guys. All right, guys. So, let's see. We're going to start back up here. Da, 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 da. Okay. Quite a number of lengthy studies of the Israelite concept of the curse and its religious and social significance have been made. But these have not taken up the question of the literary relationship between foreign curses and the Bible. Scholars have suggested a connection between the curse and the doom oracle as literary forms. And H. Graf Reventhrodt has shown the Ezekiel and the author of Leviticus 26 draw on a common stock of traditional curses, but extra biblical materials have not been drawn into this discussion. Since it may since it may seem somewhat far-fetched, at least on the surface, to suggest that the prophets were influenced international treaties, some preliminary considerations are often here are offered here, not as providing anything in advance about the question under the consideration, but simply to indicate the general plausibility of the hypothesis advanced above. First of all, it has already been demonstrated that our curious element of the Hittite treaties, the invocable of heaven and earth, mountains and hills, as witness to the pact, is preserved as a literary form by the prophets. This is even more remarkable in the light of the omission of the feature, probably as theologically unsuitable from the reports of the early covenants as Israel and Yahweh. This suggests that it is not impossible that other details of the treaty form have also been borrowed. I'm sorry, guys. This suggests that it is not impossible that other details of the treaty form have also been borrowed. Recent studies have also made clear the importance of the covenant lawsuit or rib pattern. The most useful of these is that the Johannes Hempel die Israelite Shin and something Von Shan. I don't know what all this crap is talking about, guys. Singing the Alien Testament, biblical article 30. 126 trees of the etymology of the nonsense of meaning on the Hebrew word for the curses and the blessed. Oh, we might have to read this. I'm gonna get into this, guys. Not now, but we'll definitely get into that. Okay. In the prophetic writings, this also represents an adaptation by the prophets of elements of legal terminology connected. Listen, elements of legal terminology connected with the treaties. Furthermore, some parallels between the treaty curses and the passages in the Old Testament have already been pointed out. One of these is so close that the Assyriologist Borger has led to conclude that the resemblance could not be accidental and to inquire whether the Israelite writer had perhaps learned this curse from the Assyrian treaty. The nature of the Israel's literature also suggests that it is reasonable to undertake the search for prototypes of prophetic imagery. Prototypes of prophetic imagery. One fundamental characteristic of ancient Israelite literature, as of ancient Near Eastern literature in general, is that the writers preferred traditional inherited forms and expressions to those which were private and individual. This principle was first clearly enunciated by Hermann Gunkel in a pair of short essays which laid the foundation for modern study of Israel's literature. Although this concept has been accepted very widely, it is perhaps in place to stress in here, at least if W.F. Albright's assessment of the situation is corrected. The ancient Hebrew poets escaped the prological jungles into which many of the greatest modern poets have strayed on occasion, precisely because of their close attachment to transmitted forms of verse and poetic cliches. Even today, few biblical scholars have an adequate appreciation of the importance of the strictly formal elements in ancient literary composition. Hermann Gunkel, Edward Newell, Martin de Bullius, they followed closely by many others, have indeed created a different approach to the interpretation of ancient literature, but there are still a great many scholars, probably a majority in fact, who continued to emphasize individual style and to treat each line of a Hebrew poem as though it were the reflection of some physiological idiosyncrasy of the poet, instead of being an example of a given gender or a category of composition. Whenever the outcome of the present study may be, it is at least reasonable to begin with the assumption that the ideas, imagery, and vocabulary of prophetic doom oracles are not entirely the product of the free invention of the individual writers. The second important generalization about Israel's literature is that though thoroughly distinctive, it is nevertheless influenced by that of her neighbors. Although the Pan Babylonian school was guilty of ridiculous excess in claiming that everything worthwhile in Hebrew literature was derived from the Mesopotamia, it is still generally recognized that certain elements in biblical literature are related to Mesopotamian prototypes. Innumerable instances of the Canaanite influence on the Old Testament have already been pointed out, and now examples are constantly being discovered. Since this is so, it is not prior far-fetched to propose, as is done here, that passages in the Hebrew prophets may show the dependence on originally foreign treaty curses. The Hebrew prophets may show independence in originally foreign treaty curses. Before proceeding to the description of the available treaties, it is perhaps in place to indicate the purpose of treaty curses. The ancient treaty was basically an elaborate promise, and the function of the curses attached to the treaty was to make sure that the promise would be kept by invoking the punishment of the gods on the defaulter. The sealing of the promise by a curse was a characteristic of much of ancient legal practice. The curse would be the devil. So, if you don't do this, you don't follow this route, then the devil's going to get you. This is the curse. But this custom tended to disappear or decline in importance, where society developed legal procedures by which these guilty of breach of promise could be punished. In the sphere of international relations, however, adequate legal sanctions were not available, and thus the list of curses was retained as a feature of the treaty form as long as it persisted. The structure of the treaty itself changed over the course of centuries, but the curse list was always included and, in fact, grew more elaborate in later times. The curses were apparently regarded as more important than the blessings which were promised for obedience, for the formulas of blessings in ordinary shorter than the curse formula and often quite perfunctory. What do you guys think of that? Let me see. Let me check in with my chat. Tony Furlow, peace, brother. Peace, peace, peace. Native Michigan, Abiwa, peace, peace. Thanks for coming through. Atem, thanks for coming through. What do you guys think about that? Please tell me. Tell me what you guys think about that. Are you seeing that? The Bible are all from these treaties, and they just been reformulated, rechanged, reconstructed, just like history has, just like the fundamentals of everything that's built in the foundation of America has. All these things, right? All reconstructed and changed to hide facts, to disseminate truth, so that certain things aren't people aren't aware of, so on and so forth. The treaties available as sources for this study fall into two groups. The basis for the division is primarily chronological, but also partly formal. The first group is a body of text from the time of the latter Hittite Empire, the 15th to 13th centuries BC. Most of these have been recovered from the archives of ancient Hittisus and Ugarit. In all, more than 24 separate treaties from this period have been published. Some are in good condition, often in more than one copy, while others survive only in small fragments. Curses occur in nearly all those which are fully preserved, and it is reasonable to assume that in a list of curses originally formed part of most of the treaties, 15 of these treaties contain a malediction. But even so, their treaties are more particularly useful for their investigation. In most cases, the curse is stereotyped and cast in very general terms. 10 of the examples present something that differs only in detail from the following. The The words of the treaty and oath that are inscribed on this tablet should Dipi Tessa not honor these words of the treaty and oath, may these God of the oath destroy Dipi Tusab, together with his persons, his wife, his son, his grandson, his house, his land, and together with everything that he owns. Lots of references here. Hold on, I got to get the book again because I done expired. Hold on a second. Okay. All right. Wait for it to catch up. Is it stay on the page? Yep. Okay. All right. All right. So we read that. Everything the curse he put on his whole family, his household, everything he owns, curse, 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 curse. Okay. 5 of the early treaties often offer other curses, prescribing punishments in future detail, but even in these, the list of curses is relatively short. The other group of treaties is later, coming from the 9th to 7th century BC. Though fewer in numbers, they contain much more elaborate and colorful curses and are of greater importance for this study. The oldest of this is between the Shamshi Adad, the fifth of Assyrian, 823 to 810, and Murdoch Zakir Sham, the first of Babylon. It is written in Babylonian script on stone, and although the tablet is badly damaged, 18 lines of curses can be read. The treaty dates from early in the reign of Shamshi Adad V, when he was occupied with quelling a revolt in Assyria and was compelled to make an agreement with the Babylonian king, which favored the latter. In his accession year of 754, Ashur-Narari V of Assyrian campaigned against Arpad and forced his king Mati-Lu the acknowledgement of his sovereignty in a treaty. The treaty contains an elaborate list of curses, indicates the best preserved portion of the tablet. 3 important treaties in the Aramaic language come from in approximately the same period as the Ashur-Narari treaty, since the king of Arpad is the same Matialu. There is still some uncertainty as to the provenance of the three steles which contain the treaties, though scholars now follow the suggestion of the Pont Sommer and refer to them as the Safir treaties. The first 2 treaties were concluded between Matael of Arpad and Gurgaya, king of KTK. The indication, the indication of the latter king and of his city of or land remains quite uncertain, nor in his position with respect to the Matia al quite clear. These treaties have often been referred to as Sazaranti treaties, but there are grounds for challenging this designation. It is possible that the treaties are slightly earlier than the Ashur-Narari treaty and arise out of a desire to resist Assyrian expansion. Or they may reflect a conspiracy to rebel against the Assyrian after the Assanarari's conquest in 754. Finally, as Knock suggests, one of the treaties may come from before 754 and other from afar than that. The first 2 treaties contain the list of curses that the Safar, the first, is long and well preserved, while that in Safar the second is very fragmentary. The preserved portions of the third Safar treaty contain no curses at all. Interesting. All right. Okay, let's drop this and get to the next one. All right, I'm getting close to an hour. I don't want to go more than an hour and 20 minutes. So what I'm going to do now is go to this next material and we're looking from there. Take a drink. All right, guys. Sorry about that. All right. Okay. Now we're going to get into the typical resemblance and the analysis of symbolism and disguise. Okay. Before written language, abstract ideas were represented by hieroglyphics, such as natural and familiar objects and the combination of objects in word pictures. Abstract ideas were expressed through symbolism, and the only way possible for the mind cannot well grasp a thing which is formless. The mind is formless. To grasp something, it has to have symbolism. Even our language is made up of mental pictures. In religion, it was an effort to make the picture of a divine truth or an outer garment to clothe or conceal the divinity. Allegory is a train of thought conveyed through sensible images. Allegory is a train of thought conveyed through sensible images. Let me put that in the chat for you guys. Metaphor is confined to a single expression. Animism belonged to a primitive form of religious superstition when animals and plants were possessed of souls and the tree had an indwelling spirit, and the idealized monsters of the ancient people corresponded to their degree of education and environment. A symbol is a token. It is an analogical teaching by emblematic meaning. According to the Association of Ideas as the line of strength, the scepter of power, and the dove of peace, the palm branch, victory, and the anchor of the haven of rest. These were symbols of comparison and again used to conceal truth of deep significance and symbolism. Somnus personified sleep, the latter name of the Greek hypnosis. I'm sorry, that's not right. The latter name of the Greek hypnos. He is the son of the night and the twin brother of death. Jacob wrapped in the goat skin and Jupiter nursed by a goat are the sun in the constellation of Capricorn, and the goat and the ram of Mendes become the soul of Osiris. And when Osiris became incarnate as a ram at Anderi, it is said that in the ram of Mendes, Osiris grew younger or reborn in the springtime like the ram. Abram sacrificed for Isaac, and as the harlot who escaped with Jason cut the ram in pieces and again restored it to life. They tell us it was only a sign. Well, a sign of what? Yes, a sign of savagery, which when the Jew God Jehovah became civilized and humanized, he said, I delight no more in the blood of bulls and rams, but he didn't talk that way when he came around to smell Noah's offerings of roast meat at the end of the flood. Symbol means a sign, an emblem, a figure, or type. Ordinary language is symbolism. Symbol means a sign, an emblem, a figure, or type. Ordinary language is symbolism. Again, it is expression of outward things which have an inner and symbolic meaning or allegorizing of enigmas, which is implanted in you. This is what I talk to you guys about all the time when I talk about the wave formatting. This is what this is speaking of. Symbolism began in the Stone Age among a people destitute of a written language who were instructed by pictorial symbols. To the ancients, the highest form of expression was symbolism. It was a correspondence between the thing expressed and the real thing understood. It is the strongest language we can convey. A visible sword and dove are more expressive than they represent words. All the words of our language are but a sign or a figure of something understood, and mean nothing of themselves only when we compel them to mean by conventional use. The star group suggested their own appellations according to the cosmic phenomenon at the stage of the sun's progression. It was not belief that represented Hercules as a lion or the sun as a bull, but the early time there was no word for strength, and it was represented by a pictorial image of the lion, as a fox would represent cunning, as they had to abstract words for cunning. Our God is made to take all forms as a consuming fire, a still small voice, and all through his early worship until the reign of Hezekiah, he was worshipped as the serpent Nuhashtan, which Moses had made in the wilderness of 2 Kings Chronicles 18:4. But his chief figure was that of a bull and was fed with bullock blood upon his altar. And the bull's horns were set up as a symbol upon his altar, and the two forks of the half moon altar in our church, which enclosed the pulpit, are still called the horns of the altar. The Egyptian thought, or Hermes, the wise man, was said to have invented symbols, and thought was the moon and the god of wisdom who invented the signs and the characters. This symbolism is the association of ideas. It is finding the relation of correspondence of one thing to another, representing one thing always by another, has some striking analogy or likeness of a metaphysical idea represented by a natural or visible object. I'm going to read that part again. Representing one thing always by another, which has some striking analogy or a likeness or a metaphysical idea expressed by a natural or a visible object, by which they sought to give these recondite mysteries a natural or a conventional form. It seems so natural to use one thing for the mirror of another. We speak of a well of life or a fountain of life and call the light meaning the serpent of the sky. Our language is but symbolism. All words are but symbols and have no meaning of themselves. Our language is but symbolism. All words are but symbols and have no meaning of themselves. Let me put that in the chat for you guys. Little Squid, Supernova, peace, peace. Thanks for joining me. Let me know if you want to hop up. Either you guys, anyone want to join me, ask questions, add to anything I'm reading. I got about another few minutes before I get out of here. You guys can definitely do so. Let me drop the link in case there is anyone that has anything they want to add on to any of this. I definitely am open to that as well. Please feel free to join me. All right, let's keep it moving. So, as we know that all languages but symbolism, we've been talking about that. All words are but symbols and have no meaning of themselves other than a certain frequency that they're putting out to give you that analogy of what you're visualizing, right? These symbols at first represented the vital force in nature, but later the final and spiritual force as the spirit. light or flame as coming from above and united with the physical, which returned again to its parent source. Symbols became the sublime and sacred language used as the vehicle of their religion. Symbolism means likeness, comparison. Visible symbols are much more brilliant and vivid to the human mind, even at the present time. Visible symbols are much more brilliant and vivid to the human mind, even at the present time. Let me put that in the chat for you guys as well. Ancient theologians taught by symbolism and mysticism and enigmas, which, when analyzed, are all moonshine. You hear that? Ancient theology. Oh goodness! Ancient theologians taught by symbolism and mysticism and enigmas, which, when analyzed, are all moonshine, though called a sublime theology. The guy who opened the year had keys. The guy who reaped the harvest of death carried a sickle, and his night capacity, the god, was clothed with a spotted with a spotted fawn skin to resemble the stellar sky. Spring was the youth, autumn, and old man. Symbols suggest the nature, qualities, and the attributes of their electors. Both Jews and Christians employ symbolism. Christ is made to say, Whereunto shall I liken it? The moon was the fruitful mother of whims and superstitions and of mysterious forms and transformations. She is called in Northern Saga Sunlit Hill, Shieldburg, and Land of Rings. She is called the House of the Ivory Tooth, the throne of the sea beast, Beast Tooth, and Tooth of the Well. That moon is called the wolf crag and the eagle's nest. And in the Finland epic, she is called the Kalevala, or the land of heroes. For there, the great epics and the tragedies of the year were played on that cosmic. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting distracted when I move this. For there, the great epics and the tragedies of the year were played on that cosmic stage, which is the moon. That ghost land, where nothing is called by its right name, and all is but shadow and dream. All is but shadow and dream. When the strength and the omnipotence of the sun, the great initial force and creator, would be represented by the lion, the bull, and the eagle, at a time when they had no rhyming but a pictorial language and painted objects for abstract ideas of good and evil, life and death, and in time and various attributes, qualities, and characteristics of the gods, acquiring a separate individuality, and were obscured by the wealth of symbolism under the form of beast, bird, tree, and inanimate things. And these symbols became, as it were, totems. As when our gods was a ram, we wore a little lamb in the bosom. Or when he died on the cross, we wear a crucifix as a fetish or a totem. The ancient world taught by symbol and metaphor, whereunto shall I liken it? The sign for harvest was a sickle or an ear of corn or a shaft of wheat. Christians had the fish, dove, palm triangle, and the Trinity and the cross. It was difficult to express inner and spiritual doctrines unless by outer and visible symbols. The speech prophet or the warning voice, Hippolytus, is warned by the cow, the Senate of Rome by the goose. The fish warned the Hindu Noah of the deluge. A raven warned Deucalion of the flood. The winter ass spoke to Balaam and told him of the angel of death. Men and women were transformed into all kinds of animals and inanimate beings, of birds, animals, fishes, reptiles, trees, stones, and rocks. And these animate and inanimate beings who obey incantations are more or less human in soul and are seen to appear and disappear in obedience to the rod of enchantment, the moon rod. These animals are helpers and protectors, magic animals summoned at their bidding as the new moon rings. The kangaroo to the Australian leads them home and guides them on their journey. Messenger birds are the ravens of Odin, or a dove for Noah, or the parrot or the bird of speech for the Hindu. The jackal, the hyena, the leopard, the wild boar, or the black pig, the hippopotamus, represented the god of evil of winter. They preyed upon flocks as the vulture among the birds. This is a very, very interesting read. What do you guys think about that? Any comments? Any comments with you guys? What's going on? Oh, I see a few more people came in. What's going on? There go my sis. Hey, sis. What's going on with you, babe? Hope you're having a good, easy day. Ghetto Child Clinic. Peace, peace. Tom Jones. Peace, peace, peace. Peace to you, ex-Ape. Chi Alpha. Peace, brother. Peace, peace, peace. Four feathers in the house. Yes, they respected the elements, brother. Do you hear this? This is getting so deep. I wanted to end a minute ago. I said I was going to do a part 2, read a little of this, but I just keep going. So I've taken care of one call already, and just one more in just a second. So I think I'll go a little bit more. It's getting a little more interesting for you guys, right? Because it's kind of exploring so much. Winter they preyed upon flocks as the vulture among the birds. These symbols acquired the same potency as their prototypes. The horseshoe was an efficient in healing and counteracting enchantments as the sun himself as a horse, for it was his image and holy name, the ring of the new moon, the same with the rosary and the cross, which became the abode of the enfeebled sun in the winter. It was the new moon of winter, which had become an oracle and a prophet, for the sun had gone from the earth and could no longer heal, and lived up there as a hermit like the Merlin or the blind Tiresias. They were the familiars attending Odin as ravens and dogs, or the eagle attended the Hova. The sun and moon were personified, made living, and given appropriate names to correspond to their great variety of character during the seasons, suggested by their likeness or affinity, which became a second self or counterpart, and all through the sayings of Christ, the old prophets before him, they saw for an image or a symbol, for more striking illustrations, or to conceal a dark and hidden truth, which was called the learned language of age. I'm going to put this in the chat for you guys real quick. Put this in the chat for you guys. I think this is going to cut off 2 messages or so, but let's see. Yes, yes, yes. Exactly that, brother. Respected the elements and embraced the spiritual attributes of the animals. That's right. That's right. That's right. You know, they try to make everything bad, so we can stay away from these things that we were inclined to have spiritual connections with through our ancestors, many eons ago. Okay. Zeus became a satire to ravish Antiope, a bull to Europa, a shower of gold to Danae, and to Leda he became a swan. So that all these transformations are but the sun embracing the moon in the changing seasons of the year. You guys got that? Zeus, I'm going to read that part again. Zeus became a satire to ravish Antiope, a bull to Europa, a bull to Europa, not Europe, but Europa, like Queen Europea, right? I'm just going to put that down there as well for you guys, just so you can see it in the chat. Okay. All right. And a shower of the gold to Danae, and to Leda he became a swan. So that all these transformations are but the sun embracing the moon in the changing seasons of the year. The Greek gods took all forms of animals. Check this out. The Greek gods took all forms of animals, birds, fishes, trees, stones, and all the gods could take all in any known form at will. The Egyptians and the Hindu gods could do the same. Now, keeping in mind, they had. Wait a minute, I'll get off track. Let me not go there. Let me just finish reading this. These animals became the friends, the helpers, the guides to attend the winter exiles, who are but gods themselves in beast form, exiled looking on every side for some relief. They make friends of the trees and the stones and the birds and the wild beasts. Spring stood with head crowned with flowers, summer with garments cast aside, and a garland formed of spears of ripened grain. Autumn with feet stained with grape juice, and winter with hair stiffened and gray. And these symbols are the alphabet and mythical lore, astronomical truth veiled in symbolism. I'm gonna put that in the chat too. I'm gonna put that in the chat too. Let me put that down in the chat for you guys. Oh, let me drop the book. I keep forgetting. Lord, thank you, Tom. I'm going to drop this one for you guys right now. Make sure you guys are looking at, going through this book. This book is like awesome. It's not even at large. It's only about 200. Let me see. Actually, it's 224 pages. Y'all can read this over the weekend, like literally. Here you go. Take a little time. All right. And this book particularly is symbolic mythology, but it's symbolic mythology, and it's also translation of the lost and forgotten languages. So it has a lot of information in it regards to that as well, letting you know how symbols, the words, the languages, how everything's changed over, how things have been contorted, so on and so forth. So it gets into a lot of that. But I wanted people to see the relations in this and understanding, a lot of these characters that are from the Bible and things. The previous one was talking about the treaties, showing you how these treaties are in relation to these Bible stories, so on and so forth, but they're just hidden in codes and words. And people want to say, oh, the Bible is a religion. No, it's not about the religion. It's only about the religion if you're indoctrinated and if you're not up under the light of day and truth. Okay, it's just that simple. I mean, you can't make it more simpler. All right. These animals became the friends, the helpers, the guides, and to attend the winter exiles, who are but gods themselves in beast form. Exiles looking on every side for some relief. They make friends of the trees and the stones and the birds and the wild beasts. Spring stood with head crowned with flowers. Summer with garnets cast aside, and the garland formed of spears and ripened grain. Autumn with feet stained with grape juice, and winter with hair stiffened and gray. Oh, I did read this, guys. I'm sorry. Hold on. When I copied, I think I went back up. Okay. Symbols and images possessed in this. Let me go to this one. We can see why the praying mantis was venerated over the world only because it held its 4 feet bent upward as if it's in prayer. I want to copy that one as well. Hold on, I got to put that in there for you guys too. Okay, symbols and images possess indwelling spirits. Check this out. Now me and Squid actually went over some symbols with you guys. I did this. He did something with me, and then we went and finished it up with like a part 2 or something. I can't remember. It was a couple of weeks ago, but we were talking about the frequencies. I was explaining to you guys about the sequences and how symbols, medallions, all these things give off a certain frequency, a sequence, which affects you. All these different things are very pertinent to making changes in your cell structure, all of this stuff. Like this is like kind of confirming all that right here, just by what it's saying. The sun's annals, or the epic of the year, was written in allegorical history, and these animals and signs from the symbolic chart of the year. As our language represents invisible thought, what I tell you about the manifestation, listen what the ancestors telling y'all. What I tell y'all about the manifestation of words and what they do to you. Pick our ancestors just expressly expressing the same thing, telling exactly what I said, even though I'm sure you guys believe me. You guys know we've shown enough proof of this stuff. I don't just put stuff out there for you guys to hear. I kind of like make sure you're getting a little bit of the information with it where you can research it yourself, or at least I'm giving you the ideas to put in your mind so you can study something yourself. I've been doing this dissemination of truth for about 6 months now. I see a lot of people in the Aboriginal community have joined in with me. They're doing a lot of the facts and showing and reading and things of that nature. And I want you guys to understand that we have to really break down and disseminate these facts, and showing different areas and aspects so that you can all put it together. It's like pieces of a puzzle, right? I like puzzles, right? And this is why I break down things to you guys the way that I do. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry that I've been lacking the last couple of weeks, guys, with my lives. As far as like the things coming like back to back, I've tried to do like something every day, every other day, so it's keeps relevant in your mind, and you can keep going over it, going over it, going over it. But unfortunately, I've had so many things going on in the last about 6 weeks or so. I've not had time to devote to you guys like I would love to. But I'm definitely going to make sure that I'm putting out pertinent information that is adding on to the information and not regurgitation of the same things, kind of telling you things you already know, talking about the same things that people are doing. These people are doing that, this, and that. We got to really focus on facts, things that matter, things that matter hold weight. When you think about matter, that's the weight of something. Regurgitation is okay, but we help hearing the same things over and over, guys. It's not going to be beneficial to helping you grow. In order to grow, you have to have something to add on. Giving you something in the same placement does not do that. So I just hope you guys find it important to do a lot of studies on your own as well, to make sure you're getting the understanding of this stuff and so on and so forth. I think I'm going to go back up real quick to read this. I'm going to have to read this part again. Autumn with feet stained with grape juice, and winter with hair stiffened and gray. And these symbols are the alphabet of mythical lore, astronomical truth, veiled in symbolism. I don't know if I put that in the chat or not, but something just brought my attention back to it, so let me check. Nope, I didn't, and I want to. So let's get that in the chat for you guys. Very important, very astute information. Hope you guys are really, really. King Apollo, peace, brother. Peace, 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 peace to you. All love and respect. You already know. All right, guys, let's get back to it real quick. Let me send this message, guys, and we might have another 20 minutes or so we can get in depth with this, because I want to get to something else, but I know I ain't gonna be able to now. I might just have to do a part 2. I hate when I'm rushing to, because it has me distorted. My mind is all over. So on and so forth. So I'm not going to rush through this. I'm definitely going to have to do a part 2 if I don't do it later, because I do have something scheduled for a little later, but I actually don't even think I'm going to be home. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to reschedule that again. I know y'all like, Lord, sister, so, but y'all know I have to handle things according to, what's pertinent, what's important in, my life, and everything that I'm living in is definitely, you know, important on a day-to-day basis. So I can't always stick to, the rules. Appreciate it, brother. You already know. None but love and respect for all you guys. I appreciate y'all energy. Y'all always encourage me to keep coming back, because I know you guys are enjoying the information. So it just makes sure that I'm able to present things that are edifying to you. All right, let's keep it moving. Now we're going to go back down here. As our language, I got to read this part again too. As our language represents invisible thought, our language is symbolic. Words mean nothing of themselves. They are only symbols or signs of thought of what they stand for. And those images, those signs, those symbols, these are the things that you manifest when you're speaking these words as well, writing them down. We talk about this all the time, about manifestation, things of that nature. Definitely, brother, no problem, for sure. You already know. So definitely making sure that the information that you are receiving on these things, you have to make sure you're staying where you want to be. Let me say it that way. When you're manifesting, it could be something negative, it could be something positive. If you're focused on things, let's say if there's something going on, like I've got some stuff going on right now, right? If I focus on the negative aspects of certain things, right, it's only going to make that vibration of energy lower. Speaking it, putting those thoughts out into the atmosphere, building on negativity, those things do not enhance. I've had a heavy week. I decided, hey, I want to make sure I do a live or two. That's important. This is, takes me away from my thoughts and helps to enhance in a positive aspect. So in doing so, I can put the information out and it can enhance someone else. So now that's a positive weight I'm bearing into the atmosphere. I'm manifesting positivity. And this is the way we need to operate on our day-to-day basis. Um, all right, let's get back to it. Did I put it in the chat? Yes. Okay, great. All right. Enchanters, check this out. Enchanters and disenchanting agents, enchanters and disenchanting agents are the two natures, divine and malevolent, which correspond to summer and winter and day and night and good and in evil. They are the lion and the lamb, and when all meet in spring, they bury the hatchet. We're talking about the constellations, right? And then we're also thinking about the religious aspects of things put into a word format. They are the lion and lamb, and when all meets in the spring, they bury the hatchet. Everything's over at that time. It's a new beginning, a new spring, right? We still speak in symbolism, not for the paucity of language, but it is often the most potent form of expression and used in sacred writings, not at first believed, but some become so inevitably. The moon maiden in tragedy was brought down to Troy, and Helen at Troy beguiled herself with weaving as she sang at her loom, and fashioned marvels with a golden shuttle, and wove shapes of fishes, serpents, and swans, as did Penelope and Gudrun, for the moon is but a menagerie of animals, that ark which mirrored all living things. The moon is but a menagerie of animals, that ark which mirrored all living things. Adam, the sun, the spring, or Eden, the dweller, tamed these wild animals and gave them names when they were peaceful. But in winter, they ran wild like the bull of Marathon and the Erymanthean boar and the man-killing mares of Diomede, which every spring had again to be tamed by throwing over them the ring of the spring moon, which was the halter or the rod of Moses, and Jacob, which civilized and restored order, and the waters to where poison and had to be purified with the same rod. And the men and maids are changed to rocks, to birds and beasts, but it is the magic sword or the rod or the cross that disenchants in spring, and that rod is the first thing of the spring moon. The moon was likened to a serpent, for it was a skin shifter. The moon was likened to a serpent, for it was a skin shifter. The turned skin and turncoat for the gods of old could take all forms in every conceivable shape, and these gods were converted into heroes and all played upon the moon stage with costume characteristics of the season of the year. What do y'all think of that? No comments? Oh man. I think I done lost y'all then. I'll let y'all go ahead and delve into it yourself. I think yeah, we're gonna end this at an hour and 30 minutes, guys. I'll be doing a part two on this to get a little more deeper into symbols, symbolism, and some other things that will be included in that part two. And I hope you guys enjoyed this segment. I like it when it's nice and short. All right, guys. Peace, love, blessings, and all. You already know, Tony, I appreciate you, brother. I hope you were able to grab the book and do some studies on it. Maybe you guys can even join me when I do part two after studying a little of that book later. All right, guys.